On today's Twitchy Talks subject, today I wanted to just talk about the concept of health and a couple of things within it, because I do think that to an extent, people are bombarded on social media in a lot of ways, particularly YouTube videos. I think are crazy at this, but with different videos of like, you have to be doing this. If you're not doing this, what's the point? Never ever do this. You have to eat this. You can't eat that. You have to do this workout. You can't do this workout. This is maximum efficiency. This, I don't know about your algorithm, but my algorithm has that all over. So today I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit just generically about health. And the big point that I would like to get across is that health and making healthy steps are not all or nothing procedures. In fact, quite the opposite. They are all one step at a time. In other words, if you're drinking 3 sodas a day right now, right? You're drinking 3 sweet Dr. Peppers a day. And if you go, I would like to be a little bit healthier, and you start drinking 2 Dr. Peppers a day, to be clear, that is a step in a healthier direction. That is not 0 points. You get 1 whole point for doing that. If you are not working out at all, and you go from not working out to taking a 10-minute walk around your neighborhood, that is a plus of 10-minute walk around your neighborhood. It counts. You don't have to. Every step that you take along the path of health does count. Physical health, mental health, your personal well-being. Every step that you take in the right direction is a step towards being healthier. So a lot of things that I see regarding food and fitness, right, is you'll see a lot of the extremes. As with all things, the algorithm prefers a more extreme variant of whatever that topic is. So you'll see, dudes all jacked up on their HGH and they're doing a ton of tea, right? They're on some serious cycles. And that's cool for them. No doubt. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to do that with your life, totally go do that with your life. Have a fun time. But these guys that are working out 2+ hours a day, right? Whose job is essentially to be strong or to be fit or to look jacked, right? Depending on exactly what they're doing, more bodybuilding, more strongman, that kind of thing. You really shouldn't you should not be comparing yourself to those people because you're in an entirely different circumstance, right? They probably have a lot more money, so they have a lot more access to exactly the right food, exactly the right programs. They've got all of the time in the world to make those sort of things happen. They have the right drug cocktails, all that sort of thing, right? And if that's what you want to do in life, go for it. Absolutely nothing against that. You get one life, live it the way that you want to, right? But I think that for most people, what they're looking for, I think a lot of people in general, I'm just, obviously I'm particularly talking about the US, but I do think in general, people would like to be healthier. They would like to be fitter, whatever. Just in general. Not everybody, But I think on average, even a fit person, if you ask them, their generic answer is probably like, yeah, I'd love to be a little bit stronger, right? And I think that we need to make it so, particularly online, I think it's less of a problem in person. In person in general, I think people are kinder. But online, you'll see somebody doing something that is a step in the right direction of just making themselves a little bit healthier, help themselves live a little bit longer. And you'll see people be like, nah, man, you're so far away. You're so far away from anything right now. Or what's even the point of doing that? You got to do X, Y, and Z to the extreme, right? But if you go in your normal day and you normally eat a burger, fries, and a soda for lunch, that's your normal lunch, right? You go to work, you get an hour-long lunch break, you go out, you grab some fast food, you eat real quick, you go back to work to do the second half of your day. If you replace that soda with a water and you still eat a burger and fries, you've still taken a step in the right direction. You didn't change your whole life all at once, right? You didn't take a giant chunk out of your day. You just made one choice towards being a little bit healthier. And the thing is even if you just do that change, we're talking about, I don't know, depending on the size of the soda, 200, 250 calories, a ton of sugar, right? If you did that for 1 year, I promise you're going to be healthier at the end of that year. And you're probably going to have lost quite a few pounds because you're replacing, in that case, liquid calories, which typically don't fill you up at all, which means that you probably are still eating generically the same amount of food afterwards, which means you probably just ate whatever less calories were in that soda. So it would be really nice if, and I think a lot of people understand how to be healthy. I think there's a lot of condescension as well around health in general. I have been a lot of sizes in my life. I have been very big. I have been very small. I have been very fat. I've been very jacked. I've been very strong. I've been very lean. I've done it all. I've done from soccer to giant, like powerlifting style to P90X to cardio running. And I've done it all because I get bored and I like to mix it up. Sometimes I'm bigger. Sometimes I'm smaller. And I think that there is, within the fitness community at least, I do think that there is a level of condescension that goes along with the fact that people know how to be healthier. That's true. The average person knows what to do to be healthier, right? In general, eat foods that are better for you, right? Stay away from junk food. I'm specifically not going to use the term ultra processed here because I actually think that the term ultra processed has become a bit of a buzzword. And I legitimately think that junk food is a more accurate description because I think that ultra processed has become like an oogie boogie man when in reality, it doesn't actually tell you anything about the health of the food. It just tells you how the food was processed. But you know what foods in general are healthier, right? You eat more fruits and veggies. You eat more lean meats. In general, you work out probably a little bit more than you are, or a little bit more intense if you're already working out, right? People know to do those things, but I do think that there's also a barrier to entry in that it's kind of scary, right? There's obviously a financial barrier to entry in that in the US, at least, a lot of the times healthier foods, depending on what you're buying, healthier foods price-wise can be more expensive especially given tariffs and everything that's happened lately with like importing various fruits and vegetables and stuff. So there can be a physical price restriction to that kind of stuff. But honestly, on the food front, even more so than a price restriction, there's a time buy-in in that it takes more time to take foods that are less prepared and then prepare them into something more edible. And depending on where you're at in your life, you might not have access to either the things that you need to do them. Maybe you're living in a dorm. You ain't got no oven, dude. You just got a microwave, right? That's a restraint on your ability to cook. Maybe you're working all day. You come home, you're freaking tired. Maybe you work a manual labor job all day, dude. And you're working 9-hour days and you're trying to get in a little bit of overtime. And you come home and you're just tuckered. So you're getting a lot of physical exercise, right? Maybe you do some sort of work in construction. But you're still eating like garbage because by the time you get home, you're exhausted. So you're like, I just want to get Taco Bell again, right? So I think that it's important that when we're discussing, just like as a species, the concept of health and fitness, that at a baseline level, we understand people that are timid of getting involved and have had bad experiences with it, right? Because it can be kind of scary. Me personally, I am a very fit guy. Not to brag, but I did 13 pull-ups in a row yesterday. I was pretty proud about that because I'm a big guy. I'm still pretty big right now, even though I've lost a good bit of weight lately. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm a pretty big guy. I have never been to a gym in my entire life because I find gyms intimidating. One, my workout time is my personal time, and I don't really want to be around other people when I'm working out. But two, I do find the concept of a gym intimidating. I do. I think a lot of people find the concept of a gym intimidating. You go in, you see a bunch of guys that are super jacked or super good at something. For some people, that's inspirational. But I think for a lot of people, it just makes them like feel kind of sick to their tummy. Just like, man, look at how far behind I am. Something like that. And that's coming from a guy who is legitimately stronger than the average person, right? I've been working out my whole life. I got bullied as a kid, so I got into fitness very young. Turns out bullies don't bully you if you look stronger than them. Fun fact. And I'm still intimidated by the concept of a gym. It makes me uncomfortable, you know? So I think that bringing fitness to people at home is a big thing. At-home workout programs, stuff like that. Understanding that people can, encouraging people to just do a squat. No weights in your hands. No, nothing. Just do a set of 10 squats. For some people, you might weigh so much that doing 10 squats is physically impossible. So recommending to somebody that, okay, instead sit at the edge of your couch and then stand up. And then sit back down on your couch, take a breath, and then stand back up. Basically a version of a pause squat, right? Anything like that all counts. It all counts, right? Whether you're doing bicep curls or whether you're doing something crazy advanced, like for most people would be a pull-up, whether you're going to walk around your neighborhood, whether you're doing pause squats on the couch because you can't do a full squat yet, so you just do a little squat in a chair, maybe. All of those things count, and they all make you generically healthier. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is a little bit more, like esoteric, a little bit more out there, conceptual. But I also think that in the online community, there's a lot of taking a single point of information and then extrapolating about somebody's entire health and well-being through that information, you know? I think the biggest offender of this is obviously weight. Your weight is an indicator of your health in general. But it is also an indicator, right? Say you are, let's call it 50 pounds overweight. For whatever your height group is, right? let's say generically you're 50 pounds overweight. But maybe you still eat fairly healthy. You get a lot of good nutrients in. You just eat a lot of food. You're a hungry person, right? But you're still eating a lot of vegetables. You're still eating a good amount of fruits. You're still getting in a good amount of protein. You love you some chicken, right? But you're just eating generically a lot of food. You're just a hungry guy or gal. You will most likely be a lot healthier than somebody that, let's say, is 25 pounds overweight, right? But is eating almost entirely junk food, right? Just in general. Maybe you look slightly bigger because you are. Maybe you're 25 pounds heavier, right? But from a nutrient standpoint, from your inside standpoint and the efficiency of everything running, you actually have all of the nutrients that you need. You got all your vitamins covered, right? You got a good amount of protein, so you actually have a solid amount of muscle as well. Some of those extra pounds is actually muscle. You might very well be healthier than somebody that's 25 pounds less than you, right? And then, of course, there's all sorts of other factors that in your health. Are you a smoker? If you're a smoker, you're just inherently less healthy, right? Do you drink excessively? If you drink excessively, you're inherently less healthy, right? All of these kind of things factor into your health. And while weight is a factor, I think that because it is so, you look at somebody and you have a general understanding of how much they weigh, right? Just right away. But when you look at somebody, you don't just know if they're an alcoholic. You don't just know if they smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. You don't just know if they are skinny, but all they eat is Burger King, right? They just eat one Burger King meal a day. So calorically, they're actually not eating enough calories to gain weight, but their nutrient intake is a ton of, saturated fats, comparatively to their other macros. All of these things will factor into your health, including genetics, stuff outside of your control. You might be predisposed to get heart disease. I am. I've got like a 60% German background, 40% Italian background, and by God, that Italian half kicks in hard for the heart disease. Let me tell you. It's because all I do all day is think about salami. That's all I do. And just thinking about it's giving me heart disease. So that's something that I have to be concerned about, right? I'm a quite healthy individual, but that's something that I'm going to have to worry about probably more than the average person just because of genetics, right? It was just the cards that I was dealt. So that's something that I have to be concerned about from a health perspective. So I have to do things to try to minimize that potential, including things like brushing your teeth. Your mouth is intrinsically linked to your heart health. So if you've got somebody that's not taking good care of their teeth, they're actually way more susceptible to having heart issues later in life if they don't take care of their teeth, if they don't get out to see a dentist. Massive effect on your heart health. In fact, a lot of studies have shown that the health of your mouth has a bigger impact on your heart health than weight does in general. Crazy, right? Your body's connected in all sorts of ways. Now you're craving a spicy Italian sub. Hell yeah, brother. Me too. Every day, all day, for the rest of my life. So, I do believe that in general, now if we're going to kind of transition this into some of my other, speeches that we've done, let's get a little bit more governmental political with it. In general, I do think that we should be making access to healthier foods easier. That might mean building more grocery stores in areas where maybe you're really far away from a grocery store, which is a thing. I live in the South. We have Walmart here, but you can still live. It's very easy around these parts to live a full hour away from a grocery store. That's a long drive just to get your groceries. We should make sure that the food that is better for you is in fact the cheaper option, right? But that's never going to happen unless you stop subsidizing corn and start subsidizing other foods for farmers to grow. Making sure that growing crops outside of corn is advantageous and profitable. Otherwise, you're going to get a whole lot of corn. You're going to get a whole lot of corn syrup. And you got to get a whole lot of corn syrup and stuff, right? Good old half fructose corn syrup. But if you want them growing stuff, you can grow more native plants here, more fruits and veggies that grow here, subsidize them so they can be cheaper so the farmers can still pay their bills, of course. Do the same things with all sorts of food, healthy fats. Do the same thing with lean meats. Do the same thing with good carbs, you know. Help people be able to afford that stuff. If you want people to start being into healthy food, you have to also make sure that they have access to healthy food at a young age. One of the biggest things that I'm passionate about, and that drives me crazy about the world that we live in today, is that feeding kids is not a bigger deal in the U.S. and that we've kind of just come to a point where it's just politically okay that something like millions of children in the U.S. are food insecure, don't have access to enough food, certainly don't have access to the right types of food that they should be eating. Super easy way to help with that, something that we could do tomorrow if we wanted to, is to increase the amount of funding for our public school systems, specifically towards food to kids, and make sure that all kids get free breakfast and free lunch across all public schools in the United States. That's not something that we don't have enough food to do. That's not something that we don't have enough money to do. We've just decided that it's not important. So making sure that these kids have access to breakfast and lunch at school, and not just access to breakfast and lunch at school, but redoing how school food works. This was actually tried a long time ago. I don't remember if you guys recall, but way back in the day, I do believe it was Michelle Obama's big project. It was like her big thing was trying to get like healthier school meals for children. There was actually a big backlash to it back in the day, because of course there was. It's just about trying to like get more fruits, get more veggies, get more whole grains, get more, good fats. Get more good, actually cooked meals. Hire more lunch ladies so they can get more food prepared that doesn't have to be pre-prepared. Paying lunch ladies more so that way you've got people that actually want to go do that work. It's a hard-ass job, man. Lunch ladies are cooking for hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of kids a day. You need a lot of lunch ladies and lads in that room. They got to start cooking early. And if you want these kids to have access to healthier meals, you have to increase the funding towards that food, towards getting more people into the kitchen, towards making sure they've got oven space and that sort of stuff in order to make all the food. And if you start, I promise you, if you get these kids eating food that is healthier for them, not only will it just generically be good for society because we're feeding our kids and now they're getting more calories in their body and now they're getting more ability to focus in school because they're not so hungry, so they're getting a better education because they're able to focus and not just think about I'm hungry. But also, think about some of your favorite foods, right? To this day, I almost guarantee you that some of your favorite foods, that some of the foods you crave the most are the foods that you grew up eating. Whether that food is actually even that good or not, I guarantee you that a lot of the foods that you love, that you crave, that you think about are foods that you just ate growing up. Your mama made them. Your grandpa made them. And so if these kids grow up eating burnt pizza, because it's burnt pizza Friday, and we didn't have time to cook anything on Monday, so it's burnt pizza Monday, and on Tuesday you get a hamburger and some of those soggy French fries, you best believe that these kids are going to grow up and they're going to have eaten pizza and French fries and hamburgers their whole life. And they're going to be craving pizzas and hamburgers and French fries. You know? It's just going to be a part of their daily schedule. Now it is more effort in order to change what you're doing to go do something else, because this is just what you've always done. It's what was always fed to you, and now you feed it to yourself, right? So that's kind of the topic for the day that I wanted to talk about. Just in general, we should be doing more to encourage people and help people actually encourage people that every step that they take counts. It's not an all or nothing system. You have no obligation to make it all or nothing. You don't have to work out 5 hours a week. That's not necessary. If you want to walk for 5 minutes, 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. If you want to replace a soda with a diet soda, that counts. If you want to replace a burger with a turkey sandwich, by God, that counts. You know, all these things count. They all add up. And in general, we should be doing more to just be like, hell yeah, brother, good for you. And just encouraging people, and most importantly, helping kids have access to healthier foods and in general, more foods. But thank you guys for coming to today's talk. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. !Twitchy Talks if you want to follow this channel on YouTube. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, folks, have a twitching day, y'all.